Hello and welcome to another update video for Factory Default Build Trade Repeat. This time we are looking at version 0.0.4.0, Auctions and Bulldozers. I'm going to walk you through all the new additions like new countries, production chains, and the recipe tree visualizer, as well as changes to balance and performance, closing with some miscellaneous adjustments, some bug fixes, and a look at what's coming in the future. For the most part, I'll be reading from my patch notes and showing you what it all looks like in game. Remember, if you want to play the game for yourself, you can do that for free at searchat.itch.io/fd. Let's begin. If you have played the game before, or have seen a previous video, you might notice that the main menu has some slight changes. I replaced the pastel candy colored countries with a spectrum of greens and yellows. This will be random every time you play. I also added a simple atmosphere to Earth, as well as some planes, trains, and ships zipping around the planet, hopefully giving the player an idea of what the game is ultimately about: building and trading. We'll start a new game and turn off story mode for the sake of getting into the game right away. I'll give myself a name and leave the company name blank. Another visual change I made to the game is carrying over the main menu greens and yellows to the main game, doing away with the solid green that any available country was. Now, available countries will be somewhere between green and yellow, and countries that are not available will remain gray. You may also notice that the skybox is different. The stars look more like stars, and there is a sun in the distance. Just a visual change that is hopefully for the better. Alright, the first major addition we'll look at is auctions. The new auction screen allows you to bid against your rivals for mystery shipping containers. These containers were misplaced by their company of origin due to logistical errors, in increments of 100,000, 500,000, 1 million, 5 million, or $10 million. Your goal is to spend as little as possible. The contents of the containers is a mystery, but you are given a small clue about what's inside right here. It is the category and the type. It can contain any item in the game anywhere from 3 to 120,000 tons, or equivalent unit. The auction closes in a going once, going twice, sold countdown if there are no additional higher bids. Each count takes 2 days. If you win your auction, it will appear on the right-hand side of the auctions menu, allowing you to open it. Once you do, you will see what resource was inside, as well as the quantity. To find out how much it is worth, you need to select which country you'd like it delivered to. Note that only countries with enough storage for the items will be available for that country. Once you have a country selected, you can see how much it is worth. You can switch them around if you want to try and figure out which country is going to have the highest price. Right now we just have the United States to deliver to, so let's do that. If you have use for the items, or think you might in the future, it may be good to send it wherever you have your main storage. But if you are just looking to sell, clicking through the various countries would be beneficial. It's basically gambling. Most containers are going to have less than $1 million worth of goods in it, but there are potential for much more. In my tests, 120 million seems to be the main jackpot to keep an eye out for, but there is a possibility to get over $2 billion from a single auction win. Let's move on. With this update comes 5 new countries and some new fertilities. Angola with 48 tiles, holding advanced production in diamonds. Chad with 50 tiles, holding expert production in gum arabic. Niger with 49 tiles, holding advanced production of uranium ore and onions. Mongolia with 61 tiles, holding advanced production of coal, fluorite, molybdenum ore, and goats. Peru with 50 tiles, holding expert production of cassiterite ore, copper ore, gold ore, silver ore, asparagus, avocados, blueberries, quinoa, and alpacas, as well as advanced production of molybdenum ore, zinc ore, and grapes. With these countries comes some new fertilities. Starting with alpacas, I added advanced production to Argentina, where I removed sheep. Cashmere goats, which I added expert production to China, where I also removed sheep. Horses, fertile only to Mongolia. Asparagus, I added expert production to China and Mexico, and I added advanced production to Germany and Spain. Blueberries, I added expert production to USA and advanced production to Canada. And lastly, quinoa, I added advanced production to Colombia. With these, 2 new items were added as animal products: Alpaca Wool from Alpacas and Cashmere Wool from Cashmere Goats. With that, let's move on to the new production chain, the largest and most complicated so far, requiring an additional 46 items to be added to the game: Bulldozers. The first of a few pieces of industrial equipment that I want to add. The bulldozer requires 10 industrial equipment sub-assemblies: the IE chassis frame, the IE diesel engine, the IE hydraulic system, the IE transition system, the IE track assembly, the IE blade unit, the IE cabin assembly, the IE control electronics, the IE fuel tank, and the IE cooling system. Fairly straightforward, but should prove to be quite the challenge if you wish to take on the whole production chain without buying your supplies. Another new addition, which took way too much work and is still not finished, is the recipe tree visualizer. On the top right of every library entry is a button that will open up a visualization of the recipe tree for that item, starting with raw materials and ending with the item that you had selected. While it is fine for small to medium chains, once you get to the bigger ones, it takes quite a while to load and is basically unreadable. In addition, the numbers listed are the recipe for the item in the chain after it. It doesn't do the math to figure out how much of each is needed to get to the end result. Sadly, I may need to take this feature back to the drawing board, as it is not behaving the way I want it to. That about does it for new features, but there have been plenty of changes I would like to mention. Firstly, I overhauled the zooming and panning system in the game so that it feels more natural and less floaty. And the zoom actually goes toward the mouse pointer instead of off to the left. Next, there has been another complete rebalance of production buildings. I went through every item and changed nearly all of them to follow the same rules. Items of similar categories will produce the same amount of profit relative to one another. Now, nearly every building will produce at a loss if you are buying all of your materials. For example, let's take track units. 45 tons of steel plates plus 45 tons of steel rods creates 3,000 units of track links. At a value of $50 each, that gives you an output of $150,000 worth of goods. If you are supplying those steel plates and steel rods yourself, you are sitting pretty with a nice profit. If you are buying them from the market, you are spending $108,000 for materials, giving you $42,000 profit. Not too bad, but the logistics of manually buying from the market is tedious and imperfect. Keep in mind that if you don't have the supplies you need for a production building, the building will auto-buy what it needs at a 50% markup. So those $108,000 worth of goods costs you $162,000. That's $12,000 more than the value of the goods you are making. That's even without factoring in employee and utility costs. So now this production building is costing you $12,000 per day. If you take just one of those inputs and make them yourself, you're going back to the green. And if you produce them both yourself, you're making a hefty profit. It pays off more to have production of your full chain. Some other little changes were changing the abbreviations of higher numbers. You can take a look at the patch notes if you are curious what I mean by that. Also, the escape key should behave a little more like you would expect, instead of kicking you out of the country you are working on. Again, the patch notes go into this in more detail. Some performance changes to note. The market and manager screens share the same scene and script for the sake of simplicity, just because they function very much the same. The old way I was refreshing these pages was very brute force and cumbersome. Now it is more elegant and should not cause the game to lag just because the menus are opened. In addition, since we are looking at several hundred more items coming into the game soon, I split the market fluctuations so that every item doesn't flux every day. Instead, there are 4 groups of items and they take turns fluxing every day, meaning that the price of a single item will flux every 4 days. Next, some bug fixes. I will just read these directly. Fixed issue with the manager screen. If you had the question mark button selected in the market and then switched to the manager screen, you wouldn't be able to hire or fire managers. It would only bring up the library for the item you clicked. Fixed issue with ITO coding, recursively needing ITO coding to produce. It should simply be ITO. Fixed issue with search bar being able to be activated anywhere in the game. Should now only work where it makes sense. Fixed issue with build mode buttons not blocking you from building buildings under them. This was building buildings when the player was just trying to press a button. Lastly, some future goals for version 0.0.5. UI changes. Need to create a theme other than gray and other gray. I'm going to separate the objectives from the news feed. It doesn't make much sense that they are together anyway. I will combine the objectives with contracts, both on separate tabs, and they will be joined by the first wave of Uncle objectives. I go into what that means in a post on my itch.io page. Take a look if you want to know more about what the Uncle objectives are, otherwise you can wait and be surprised. Following my pattern, I would like to add 5 more countries and another production chain. This one will likely be something needed for the Uncle objectives. There might be a few more little changes or additions, we will see. Alright, so that does it for this update video showcasing the 0.0.4 update for factory default build trade repeat. Remember, if you want to play the game yourself, you can do that for free at searchchat.itch.io/fd. Take care.